G'day everyone and welcome to another episode of Baggers Chat. It's a bit of a different look today, obviously with no Paddo. As touched on in the last episode, he's currently lapping it up in the States, so he might be watching this, and hope you're having a good time, Paddo, because getting a little bit cold here, Victoria, and it's looking quite warm in Los Angeles, heading into summer obviously over there, so hope you're having a good time, mate. But for the time being, it's just going to be me for the next few weeks. So I'm going to be previewing the clash against the Giants, which is our first interstate game of the year. Obviously, we're heading into the game with a massive win against the Cats. If you haven't seen our review of that, that is up on our channel as well. So give that a check out after this, or right now if you want to. This Saturday, 4:35. It's probably our first non-blockbuster game. The last 2 weeks, obviously, you got the Tigers and the Cats on Thursday nights, which is always big, and a lot of people watching those games. And our first interstate game of the year, which is at Giants Stadium, which last year, obviously, we got the win over them. I think that took us to about 7-2 after round 9, and it was a great performance from the boys. We started off really well in that game, and they kind of clawed back about three-quarter time, and then we overran them with a couple of Charlie Curnow goals and a few Silvani specials, and obviously Doc's goal from inside the centre square, which is fantastic. Like we usually I'll start on with the injuries, the injury list. We've had obviously a few pre-game of the Geelong game, obviously with Hewitt and Jack Martin being late-ish outs. I'll go on with another one in the VFL with Sam Durden, obviously keyback Sam Durden. His scans confirmed the other day that he had a hamstring strain that he sustained in the VFL game against the Cats. I think it was on Saturday night or Friday night, and he'll be unavailable for 1 to 2 weeks. So luckily, touch wood, and hopefully we have our keybacks stay fit in terms of Lewis Young and Weeders, who have been phenomenal the last couple of weeks. So hopefully his recovery is quick, Sam. And obviously we've got George Hewitt. He's going to be a test for the game this week after missing round 2 with a hand injury. Let's just hope he comes back. I think if we don't want to risk it, I think we can let him go for another week. But, I don't really know the significance of it. I'm not sure how much pain it's causing. So George is as tough as old boots. So I'd imagine he'll be back this week. And then Jack Martin with his usual calf. That really frustrates a lot of us fans. Will be a test for round 4, which would be an interesting one. So with potential inclusions, obviously Hewitt and Martin are both tests for the game. But for mine, I think I just don't see Martin coming into the side. I think he needs to have a couple games in the twos and see how he goes, depending on if there are outs coming into the Giants clash in terms of injuries. And maybe late outs, but in terms of what I've been hearing, there hasn't been much at all in terms of injuries to the 22 that we had against the Cats. And obviously Hewitt's a massive in if he after that test he is fit. So I'd imagine Hewitt would come in definitely, as he's probably in our top 5 most important players in terms of output. So who comes out if Hewitt is selected? You look at, obviously, Jack Silvani. I'm not based on form. He's been good enough, but I feel like on Thursday night he looked a bit underdone, and obviously led to him being subbed out at three-quarter time. So he might be one that comes out if Hewitt is selected. It's a tough one with Jack because obviously it caused a bit of controversy last year leading into the Adelaide game that he was dropped and then he was the sub, and how much of a debacle that game was over at Adelaide Oval. But Smalls, I don't see any Smalls getting dropped. I thought Owies was superb last week. I think he kicked 3 goals, and then Dirds was great in his first game back. He just provided that run, and that it just helped us connect to our taller forwards in Harry and Charlie. So, and obviously kicked a goal. I don't know how it's not a goal of the year nomination. It was a ripping goal, and it was fantastic. So I don't see the Smalls getting dropped. Maybe an Ed Curnow, but I thought Ed did his role when he needs to tag, he tags, especially with a few of the Giants midfielders coming back, and especially Josh Kelly and a few of those names coming back in. I think Ed needs to play. The ruck situation, it's tough again. Do you drop one of the rucks? I don't think so. I think it worked really well. I'll touch on it probably further on in terms of how important that, the two ruckman structure was to our victory against the Cats. So it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a headache all year, I think, with Voss and the coaches. I think the selection committee is just going to cause headaches, which is a problem we've really never had in my lifetime, really, have we? And probably 2011, 2012 when we did have depth. But since then, we really haven't had depth. And it's just fantastic to see. We've really, starting to turn the corner. And, you want a consistent best 22 out there. But that'll be very, very interesting. And I think there's an interesting stat that we haven't had an unchanged side heading into a game for over 1,000 days, which is phenomenal. That shows you that we're starting to turn the corner a little bit, and having that best 22 consistently out there on the park is phenomenal, and just really leads to good momentum heading into the year, which we didn't really have last year. We had a lot of players coming in and out, and obviously we've got George and Walshy coming back in, so in very, very soon. I'll just touch on the back line, which has been once again superb. I thought they were great the other night, apart from Cameron kicking his six, but he's just a phenomenal player, and it's really, really hard to stop a player like him. With Lewis Young, his development by the game is just phenomenal, and him and Wiedering work well together. I feel like, in terms of key backs, sometimes they play the same role, but I feel like they're special in their own way. And I think obviously they both read the play well. Wieders by foot is phenomenal. Youngie in the air is phenomenal. And it's just going to be interesting because with the Giants, they've got a few key forwards, but they don't have those big, key forwards like a Harry Mackay. They've got Jesse Hogan, who on his day can be anything. He's one of those frustrating players for a Giants fan, Melbourne fans, and Freo fans when he was there. He can kick six on his day, but he also going to have 3 touches on his day. And obviously Himmelberg, he's always been shifted up forward, down back, and he took that ripper mark last week. But with those two and maybe Jake Riccardi as well, I think we can cover them really well. The one key component of the Giants forward line that leads to their success is Toby Green, their skipper, who every week is kicking bags. I think he's got 8 goals in the first 2 games. I think he kicked 4 the other day, or 3 against the Eagles, and their loss. So he's going to be a massive target for our defence in terms of minimising his impact on the game. I think for me, it's got to be Nick Newman on him. I think he's been great. Knew he was phenomenal the other night. Whoever he takes, whether it's round 1 against Dusty, who I thought he was great. And round 2, I think it was Gary Rowan and a few of their smalls. So he really took on that role. He can kind of play tall and small, which is the good thing about him, and also hurt the opposition by foot as well. I think he had 23 touches the other night, which is he's probably our most underrated player in that best 22. We've got a few of them, but I think he's just not really talked about, which is fine. But it just shows our growth again. But yeah, I think it's going to be Newey on Toby Green, and it's another talking point with Doherty. I think with Doc, I'd love him to move to the midfield, but he just looks solid in that back 6. And like I touched on earlier, the consistency of our best 22 is crucial. And all good teams have consistent best 22s. During Richmond's run, obviously, you might have 20 guys who are locked in every single week, and you might have a couple that come in and out. But if you have that majority of your team playing week in, week out, obviously injuries come and go, but based on form, if you've got a best 20, best 18 to 20 each week, I think, you're going to get the job done most weeks than not. So defense looks superb, and now move on to the midfield, which will be an interesting battle. They've obviously they've got some mids who are in good form. I thought Caniglio's kind of in his 2019, 2018 form. He's looking really good. Josh Kelly comes back from a concussion that he received in round 1, which is a massive in for them. He just provides a lot of run run and carry and just that penetration going forward. So he's going to be another one to watch. And obviously, the one for me is the key one. He's only 22, but he reminds me of a young Cripper in a way, and it's Tom Green. He's been racking up the possessions each week. Any Supercoach fans out there, he's I think he's around 500k, and he's worth the money because he's looking very, very good. He's going to be a premier midfielder of the competition in years to come, and he currently is one. So I'm sure the coach is going to be looking at that and looking at how we can minimise those midfielders, how we can minimise them as a whole, defensively and also working forward as well. But obviously you've got Cripps, Kennedy, Chera in there, and if Hewitt's in there as well, we should be winning the battle. Every week we should be winning the battle. And but this one will be tight. I think the Giants, that's their strength in the midfield this year, especially with the way Tom Green's progressing. But for mine, I'm not overly worried, but our midfield really opened up the game the other night against the Cats compared to round one, where we just looked very stagnant and we didn't win many stoppages, and our stoppages that we were winning they weren't clean, or they weren't really driving us forward. And the other night we really drove forward, and I thought our midfield were fantastic. Cripper had 27 and it wasn't really talked about much. So I thought Kennedy and Chera were fantastic. Ed Curnow was great. And on Ed Curnow, obviously he has his tagging roles in certain stages of a game, but also can work and hit the scoreboard like he did the other night. I thought he was fantastic as well. Does he tag? Maybe he tags a Tom Green, maybe tags a Josh Kelly out of the game. It really depends on how the game is going. I don't think you start off with a tag, but it depends how Tom Green is going. If he's off the leash, then you might need to chuck him on for a quarter and really, minimise his impact on the game. But for another opportunity here, though, for our wingers, we always talk about the inside mids in terms of Cripps, Kennedy, Chera, the guys that centre bounces. But I thought Hollands and Akers really, really opened the ground up for our mids and just our team as a whole, connecting our forward line, which was fantastic. I thought Akers was phenomenal the other night and just showed how cheap we got him from the Dockers, and how important he's going to be for us going forward, just using his experience, his size, his height, and his two-way running is enormous. He's blocking holes in defence, but also creating that overlap run heading forward and hitting our forwards, which he did a couple of times. Our other winger, Ollie Hollands, I think, I can't believe how good he is. He's played 2 games of football last week against the reigning premiers. You can't, you got to respect them. And the way he went about it, 20 touches. I think he had the most Ks run for the game. I think 15.2, and 3.5K of those were at top speed, which is phenomenal for a second gamer, and just shows why the coaches have, really, why they've chosen him to play the first 2 weeks. And he's kept an O'Brien out, who was, played most of last year, which is an interesting one. He's been coming off as the sub, and I think he might be the sub again this week. And that's going to be interesting in future games with Cottrell coming back from injury. So it's, again, a great problem to have. But with Hollands and Akers, I feel safe on the wings, and they just really provide that width, like I touched on in the review with Pato. Every stoppage, you just watch, especially the centre bounces, they're not getting sucked into the play. They provide that width. Chera gets it out, he can go and chip, and then we go forward. And they're just really disciplined, both of them, and running 2 ways, both of them blocking holes. Obviously, Hollands with that spoil in front of Jezza Cameron, which was gutsy, but also him being able to push back there after running forward is just, it's just second to none, and it's just fantastic. We'll move on just shortly with the ruck situation. Me personally, I think we have to have 2 rucks in the side. I think with Pito in the side the other night, I think it's really crucial to TDK's success. And it really allows us to have that trick up our sleeve and put TDK up forward with a Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow, and really stretch their defence, which I'll actually touch on very, very soon. But Pito only had 50% game time, but I think he had 47 of his 30 or 29 hit outs. I think it was 47% of his hit outs were to advantage, which is continuing his great numbers of last year before he had his PCL injury in round 5 last year. So, and getting more game time into him, he's just got to get more, match fitness in, and I think these two can work really well together. They both provide, different strengths to our side. Pito's that, bash and crash. He's that tall. He's tall. He's big. Provides that physical kind of, game to our midfield, and opens up the game for Cripps, Kennedy, and Chera. And Teddy K, obviously, he's been talked about a lot in the media with his potential being through the roof. He showed that the other night. He's just getting better and better, Tommy, and it's another test this week. So, like I said, Pito, really crucial to Teddy K's success. I think Teddy K will be the starting ruckman from going on, from so forth. And it'll be interesting to see. Now we move on to the forward line. It's always it brings a smile to most Carlton fans' faces, knowing that we've got two premier key forwards up there with Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow, and obviously Curnow coming off a best on ground performance with 5 goals, probably just behind Jeremy Cameron, who had 25 and 6, to be fair. But Charlie just looks back onto it. He struggled a little bit round 1, still kicked his 3 goals. So round 2, kicked 5 against the Cats. Really just dominated the game. His set shots has been really good, kicking the ball well. And obviously Harry in that last 5 minutes really helped us ice the game and chew seconds off the clock and take away that forward momentum for the Cats. They had a few times in that last 5 minutes, and that was massive. I think he took 4 or 5 marks. And that's what he provides. He provides that, he's got that tank to run out a game at his size, and he's got the pace and the height. And for me, I think every game we've just got to be looking at getting into them. One-on-one is huge with those two. They're going to win more one-on-ones than lose. So we'll just touch on, the Giants defenders. Against the Eagles, they had Sam Taylor, Nick Haynes, and Isaac Cumming down back. All kind of key backs. They can play key. I'd imagine it'd be Taylor and Haynes on Mackay and Curnow. I think Taylor might take. Oh, it's tough. He might take a Mackay. I think he's, more of that bigger defender, and Haynes is more of that, over the back, third man up type of defender. But his athleticism can take it up to a Charlie Curnow. I think he was on him last year, but it's really tough looking at forward line matchups, because both Harry and Charlie are versatile and can push up the ground. So it's just a positive for us, and it causes headaches for opposition teams in terms of matchups. So with the forward line, I think it's crucial with our smalls too. We know what we're going to be getting out of Charlie Curnow every game, and what we're going to be getting out of Harry every game. Charlie's going to be kicking his 3 goals. Harry's going to be pushing up the ground, taking grabs, and obviously, hopefully, hitting the scoreboard a little bit more this week, which I really back him in to do. But it's our smalls. I thought they were great the other night. I thought he's really stood up. I kicked his 3 goals, like I touched on earlier, but it's more about when we get it in deep and they're, front and centre to the contest, which we did not have it at all, any of the 4 quarters in round 1, but in round 2, we really did. And I think they all hit the scoreboard with always with 3, Mollop with 1 early in the first quarter with that free kick from Sam McConaughey, but that was him willing the ball forward, and obviously Corey Durden kicking an absolute ripper, which was off forward pressure and that momentum driving us forward. When they're crucial to our game and us winning games, they need to be on their game and providing pressure, and to be kicking 6 every week. We've got the 2 big fellas that can kick the goals, but if they're there roving, kicking a couple goals every game, pressure on, putting them under the pump, it can really be an asset to us and create more goals. I thought we locked it in a lot more in the 50, which repeat entries are massive for us. And I feel like at points in a game when we're not locking in enough, I think our transition defense hurts us a little bit. It's obviously gotten better over the years, but teams can really hurt us and really pile on the goals. So, massive. So I'm just going to get into the match predictions. Obviously, just me doing the predictions. Yeah, I'll start off with best on ground. I think he really stood up for I thought his round one was okay, but round two he really stood up and just showed why he's the classy midfielder we brought over from the Dockers, and I think it's going to be Adam Chera as our best on ground. Point of difference, it's tough because we've already had 2 games. We've had a lot of point of differences stand up in terms of, Cow and Hollands. Obviously, you got Mollop as well being a point of difference. Nick Newman's always a point of difference in terms of how underrated he is in his side. But for mine, I think it's going to be the kid again. I think it's going to be Ollie Hollands in his 3rd game. He's going to be that point of difference. I thought he was one of the point of differences against the Cats. He provided something different to us, and he brings something different to us, which shows how good our list management is currently going. We know what we needed. We're not wanting to develop him over years. We know he's ready for the big time in his first year, and he's by far ready. And for a guy who's, heading into the year, we're probably thinking, he might play, later on in the year. He's by far exceeded my expectations and probably most of your guys' expectations. So point of difference for mine is Ollie Hollands. The winner and margin, like myself and Bato always say, I think I've never tipped against us, maybe unless we're versing a really, really good side. But realistically, I think if we can open them up, get it on our terms early, hit the scoreboard early, I think we can push it out, and I think we'll be Carlton by 41 points. I think we need a cruisy victory, but I'm respecting the Giants. I think they're going to be a better side this year, just due to the strength they have in midfield, and obviously they've still got some superstars in Toby Green, and obviously Nick Haynes is extremely good on his day. So it's never going to be easy. Let's hope it's not another hard stopper like we've had the last couple of weeks, and obviously the back end of last year with our a few narrow defeats. But let us know your predictions in the comments below. It's for the next couple of weeks, it's going to be on me or Baggers Chat. So I think Pato comes back just before the Saints game or just after the Saints game, which I think is around round 6 or 7. So he's going to be seeing more ahead here on the screen on Baggers Chat, but plenty of content still going out on socials. Videos will be uploaded in the same, schedule every week, previews, reviews. But yeah, let us know your predictions down below. Chuck a like, chuck a subscribe, check us out on Spotify, Instagram, Facebook. We've got it all. So I think that wraps it all up. And yeah, up the mighty Baggers.